On that note, I guess what are the red flags that you've seen in data that have these cascading massive impacts that can throw off a forecast or ultimately throw off advice or kind of direction from a strategy perspective that organization sets?
My biggest pet peeve, and it's gonna sound so minor, but it's so big, is the close dates on deals. It drives me bananas when it's just wrong, and then you're constantly paying these people, "Push your close dates. Is this open? Should it be closed? What's going on?" At certain point in the company, it's like, you know how long your sales cycle is. If you're working with the customer, you have a good idea when you're gonna get signature. So I think for me, it's monitoring, those pushing close dates, the age of things sitting there, like how long has something been sitting without any activity on it, missing fields, a lot of requirements and validation rules. I think those are the big ones for me, especially if you're monitoring that forecasting and pipeline. You need that stuff to be clean every week, every month, or your sales team is going to have no idea what's going on. I mean, that impacts all of the things that we talk about when it's the pipeline management and the forecasting. If that stuff is not consistent or not putting it in the CRM, that's the other big, big piece of it because somebody could be sitting there with their little list of all of this stuff in Excel and you really wouldn't know.
Especially in more legacy industries where they're not living in the computer and in the CRM on a day-to-day
Or it's
basis
new and they didn't have
as
to do it.
customer.
And now it's like, "Hey, you have to go put this in." They're like, oh. So then they, avoid doing that. So I think those are the big. But then, if you're building your relationships and that stuff and the trust with the teams, you can have those tough conversations. The role of RevOps being that synergy in the middle. You've already hopefully built those relationships, that open communication. You've given them the process, you're coaching, and they know that, you have their best interest and the trust is built. Then you can kind of do that annoying stuff of like, hey, can you please go do this? Or hey, I really need you to update this, and nobody gets offended by it. So
Back to your point on, like, the type of data, like the close date on an opportunity. I mean, that being off is such a big symptom to just this much bigger underlying problem of, like, gap in sales process, because if you're off on your predictability at an opportunity level, at the rep level, where they're the closest to the account, they're supposed to be following very specific process, and we're seeing failures there. I mean, I agree, that's kind of a very common immediate red flag that something is off with the way that we hold our reps accountable to process, the way that we measure and track.